Hello and welcome to Actions to Wealth UK with me, Ash Bull, taking you through this week's market analysis and a little preview of last week. So we've got preview this week, review of last week. Last week we saw weakness in the dollar towards the end of the week as the data came out, non-farm payrolls came out, few misses on the data, and that didn't drive the dollar forward, which I was anticipating to happen, that the dollar was to move forward. That didn't happen. So as that is, have we got some trades now against the dollar? Well, let's start with Forex Factory just so we can get a feel of what we want to be looking at this week and what's likely to be driven, the drivers of the market, and what's likely to be moving. We're going to start with Monday and the pound in services PMI. It's going to be an interesting week for the pound. More terror attacks over the weekend in the UK. Let me just bring up the clock here. Have kind of made things a little tricky to know how is best to play the pound trades this week, the sterling trades this week. I have to say, before the terror attacks came over the weekend, I was looking at the pound for some price action as one of my favoured currency crosses this week, but it's put things a little bit tenuous from my particular perspective. So I'm probably going to let this one develop early in the week and see if I can still get onto a trade. When I say early in the week, a few hours on Monday, and then we'll see if we can get onto any trades. That may mean that we're going to miss the driver, which is the services PMI, but trading after that might be okay. So Monday we've got the pound. On Tuesday, we move to important decisions from Australia, the cash rate. Now, the Australian economy has been getting a little bit of bad press recently. A lot of people are expecting the Aussie dollar to be trading down in the longer term and looking at a weaker economy. China's had a few issues of slowing down from their incredibly quick pace of growth recently, which is putting pressure also on the Aussie dollar. So this cash rate will possibly be of interest, but probably the anticipation is going to be that this is probably going to be left on hold. If anything, maybe a dip is a change to the downside is more likely, but certainly forecast at the minute to be left on hold. Then we get the RBA statement, so we can see what rhetoric comes in after that and whether that becomes the driver. GDP quarter on quarter on Wednesday. Could be a continuation in whichever way the Aussie is going by that point. Crude oil inventories I'm not really going to pay too much attention to. More news from Australia on Thursday. Chinese as well. Chinese yen, the trade balance, and Australia trade balance also could drive this Aussie trade if we can get into anything. Euro minimum bid rate is going to be seen, but again, is that going to be that surprising if that's left on hold? But I would suspect trades in the euro could be something that we could look at this week. ECB press conference may well be more of a driver, so we'll wait for the minimum bid rate, but I suspect this ECB press conference will be where the fireworks really begin. Unemployment claims may not be that significant this week, and finally we're going to go on to manufacturing production month over month, which may well be another driver for the pound as well. A little bit of data towards the end of Friday, well, the afternoon on Friday, employment change and unemployment change from Canada. But I'm not really looking at the CAD. I am interested in the Aussie and the pound this week, and maybe we can start looking at what they look like against the euro. This is the pound dollar. So the pound dollar, I'm looking for a push to the upside. Really, we saw some fairly badly received numbers from the US dollar towards the end of last week, and most of the currencies did start to push forward against the dollar. I was in a dollar CAD trade that I managed to close out at around about break even when that news didn't come out favorably. So probably looking for more dips in the dollar. Gold took off last week against the dollar. I might just quickly bring that up, but just as a quick show of a barometer. But gold absolutely flew after that data came out. You can see this is a daily chart, and when we compare it to other daily charts, there's very few on here that are quite as large as this one. And considering that was large and bullish, that does suggest that the dollar is not such a popular currency right now. If we bring in just a quick simple level here, it looks like gold's got a tiny bit more to travel before it's going to be starting to turn around. I suspect we'll probably push up there, but not break out before that rate decision that is coming this month. So I am looking at the pound, and I'm looking at the pound for some upside. As I say, these terror attacks may well make the trades in the pound a little bit more dangerous, a little bit more difficult to try and get onto. But if I am looking at anything in the way of direction with this pound dollar, it would be to the upside. And the pound is quite interesting in a way with quite a few of these. Because not necessarily of what the chart pattern suggests, but where it sits. We can see that there's indecision bars going on here, but ultimately this area was held up, and we are still currently just about hanging on to some upside. When we look at the pound on a weekly chart, we see that the swing low down here hasn't been taken out, so we can still look for upside. This area may well be an area that is sold off, so we'll have to see what happens early on. Pound almost could go either way, but I am looking for some upside in the pound. And if I bring in the euro at a significant level here of potential resistance, so maybe some weakness euro pound could promote the pound for the week. And quickly looking at, I'm not going to look at the Aussie so much because the Aussie is something that I'm also looking for some strength in, but maybe the pound CAD could be something that we could look for, just something of interest. Again, this is the weekly chart, still looking pretty bullish right now. End of the week well, and these bars are suggesting that the bulls won out in the end. It did push down. The bears managed to get a little bit control earlier in the day, but the bulls won out in the end on Thursday. And on Friday, a little bit of an indecisive bearish bar there. So it kind of could go either way, and considering what has happened over the weekend, it may be best just to stay away from the pound because it's looking a little bit questionable, and also sentiment's questionable. And not to forget that we've got an election out on Thursday, so that also could mean a lot of questions rather than answers before we get to Thursday, and that could make the market a little bit jittery about sterling. So let's focus our attentions now to the Australian dollar, which I'm also interested in. This has been the price action in the Aussie Swiss. Downside, 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 and we've just had a hold. We just had a very, very weak bullish bar towards the end of the week. So on Friday we had that bullish bar stepping in there. So now if we look at the weekly, this is where I would start to assume that some strength could come back into the Aussie, but only on the short term. So we've broken out of these areas of support here, broken out of the trend line, but a little bounce here early in the week, probably only until that rate decision comes out, and then we can see what the Aussie looks like after that. But you can see that it's broken through significant levels already, and it's got a little way to travel. So anything that's bought up will potentially be sold off. But with the Aussie being so oversold, I would be looking for a bounce. Interesting against the Kiwi. If I can find the Kiwi. Here we go. Interesting against the Kiwi as where it sits. Can't quite grab this one. There we go. Interesting against the Kiwi because of where it sits, and last couple of weeks we did have, or we've had just possibly some just a little bit more confidence coming in, but it's right on the level there, so it's right on the trend line, unable to cross to the downside. Sorry, that's the wrong chart there. I'm having a bit of problems bringing in the one that I want. Let me just see if I've got it this time. Here we go. Right. There we are. This is what we were looking at. Looking at this chart, it looks like it's got just a little bit further to travel, but if we bring the trend line in here, that gives us a slightly different picture. So the bar isn't very favourable, but the actual level looks pretty good for a potential bounce. Might need to wait for a stronger bar on this daily chart to suggest we might get some upside from this point, because that's still looking pretty bearish. But I like where it sits, and I like to compare what the Aussie or whichever currency pair that I'm looking at the time for a trade looks like against some of these others. Because the one that I would really like to try and get hold of is the Aussie CAD. Very bullish on to the upside. Hasn't broken out of this area, but I would certainly look for it to test this area again, and I'd like to see if I can pick it up on a dip down to potentially see if we can get through that area. And what I would look for, this 4-hour bar, the penultimate 4-hour bar on Friday, does look like we got some sellers still interested in this Aussie CAD to the downside. But what I would personally be looking for is just a little bit of a dip into somewhere to the 50% level here. Down here, the 38.2% retracement is possible, as we do have areas that were resistance previously and now could become support. But this is also an area that was resistance. These are previous support areas that haven't become resistance, and they might continue to act as support here, or there might be an area here that acts as was resistance and may now become support. So I am looking for a dip into one of these two areas. So the two price levels I'm looking for would be let's bring this up so it's nice and easy to see. Looks like 1.00156 area, or the 50% is around about 1.00030. So it's going to be one of those areas that I'll be looking for. So it's really just to see what happens. If it comes down to this point, there won't be a buying opportunity until we start to get some holds along this area on the hourly chart. If it comes down to this, then I'll be looking for the same kind of thing. So looking for some price action to the upside, Aussie CAD, possibly even Aussie dollar. Hopefully this was of use. If you need these to go on any longer, then let me know. I'll try and make them as short as possible, which means I don't get to cover everything that I'm looking at or everything that is necessarily of use. But I'm trying to keep these at bite-size amounts so they don't become too time-consuming to watch. But if you want me to go into any more detail at any point, do let me know on Facebook. But if they're good enough as they are, that's fantastic. Hope you have a fantastic week. Be vigilant, be patient, be professional, and I hope you make money. Have a great week.